Here we go.
Nobody knows more about Indiana sports than this man. He was a high school basketball star in Indiana. He played for Bobby Knight at Indiana. He coached under Coach Knight at Indiana, was the interim head coach at Indiana after being the head coach at Bowling Green. But this man is far more outspoken than Coach Knight ever thought about being. This man knows. Dan Dakich knows and isn't afraid to tell you what he knows. He's the host of Don't At Me on Outkick. I love that title. And, of course, the Dan Dakich Show emanates from Indianapolis. Coach, appreciate your time today ahead of Game 3 tonight, of course, in Indianapolis. But before I jump in on that, I got to quickly ask you about how you ended Michael Jordan's college career. I'm always fascinated by this story because it's a Sweet 16 game, and you get thrown into the lineup to guard Michael Jordan in his final year, his third year at North Carolina. You hold him to 13. You upset them, what was it, 76 to 72? 72 to 68, I guess it was. So what happened? What do you remember most about how you held him to 13 points?
First off, I didn't think you had me on. I didn't remember holding him. Like, hey, Skip, the game is over. We're celebrating, right? And here's the thing. They had Michael Jordan, Sam Perkins, Kenny Smith, but we were Indiana, Skip. We were supposed to beat Carolina.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. We're still celebrating like crazy. And, you know, one of the girls with CBS says, Steve Alford, he had 27. He goes, hey, they want to talk to you, Billy Packer, after the game. And Skip, they grabbed me and said, Dan, they want you too. And Skip, I didn't know why. Like, I had 4 points in the game. And I'll never forget standing there thinking, why the hell am I here? I know Alford, Coach Knight, Billy Packer, Gary Bender, and they asked me, Dan, how'd you do it? How'd you stop Michael Jordan? And Skip, swear to God, that's the first I'd ever heard that I stopped Michael Jordan. I didn't know. Okay. I was just playing. You know, I was just playing. I fouled out. He fouled out. And Skip, swear to God, I took public speaking. My parents are teachers. And Skip, I looked dead in that camera. How'd you do it? I'm thinking, how'd I do what? How'd you stop Michael Jordan? And I looked at the camera, Skip. I said, well, it just wasn't that hard. And Knight looks at me like, you're a dumbass. Get out of here. But, you know, I do remember, though, that summer going to the Olympic trials because they were in Bloomington in 84 and all that stuff. And I remember Coach Knight sitting down. He would sit next to me while I was watching practice, and he'd say, you know, you're going to be known as the guy who stopped greatest basketball player ever. And I'm like, come on, Coach. Greatest, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And he said, no, he's going to be the greatest basketball player in the history of basketball. And
really? Wow.
Yeah. And I was fascinated by that. Depending on your opinion, kind of came to be true.
I do think it became true. So as a coach, in a coaching perspective, describe this Pacers team to somebody who hasn't seen them play.
Perfect fit. Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan have figured out team. And I think both have, Skip. I think OKC has as well. Like, Pritchard is a friend, and he has gone every direction. You want to make a trade? Okay, here comes Siakam. Another trade to get rid of Sabonis, and here comes Haliburton. Your second-round pick, Nembhard comes in, Shepard comes in. He just understands fit. And, you know, he also understood, and this goes back to his college days, he understood how good Haliburton was. And Skip, I'm not talking about, you know, just as a player. I'm talking about as a teammate. You know, Haliburton is a lot like Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson's a lot better. Don't get me wrong. I get all that. But he has his hand in on everything, Skip. Yeah. They're going to play fast. Tonight, he can't be passive. He's got to, you know, let's say he scores 14 points, fine. He's got to have 18 assists because he's capable and 1 turnover. But the Pacer team is going to play fast. The defense has gotten, I would almost say 50% better. Skip, this is a team that sucked in the beginning of the year. I mean, they were banged up. Haliburton was horrible. Haliburton called himself out. They didn't guard. Now they guard. Siakam is a terrific player. This is they're going to play fast. They're going to shoot threes. They're going to swing the ball. And tonight, if you see them getting into too much one-on-one, they're going to get their ass beat because that's not their game.
So Haliburton in the fourth quarter the other night, when it really didn't matter as much, did get loose, and he scored 12. And you see the talent and the firepower, and you say, does he need to do that in the first quarter? And he said after the game, I do need to be a little more aggressive sooner than later. Do you agree with that?
Skip, you've been covering this a long time. Let's be honest. The stars got to be stars, all right? These two teams didn't play each other a lot during the course of the season, twice, I think. And so they don't know each other, but now they do. And your best players got to go. Yeah, you can't, you get 12 in the fourth quarter of a game that you're not going to win. That's great. Nobody in their right mind would ever question whether Haliburton's clutch. That's been put to bed, right? I mean, that's just, but you got to do it. I was talking to Mark Boyle, the voice of the Pacers, yesterday, and we're both saying the same. You cannot come out with that, hey, I'm trying to get everybody involved nonsense. Yeah. You got to be involved, whether it's in transition. Hey, it doesn't have to be scoring. It doesn't have to be a 32.15 assist, no turnover night like he had in a previous round, but he's got to have his hands on every single play in the first quarter and throughout the game. Doesn't mean he got to shoot 100%. Doesn't mean he's got to make 7-3. But he's that kind. Again, I go back to Magic Johnson. If you think about Magic Johnson, he would have 12 points, but he'd have 10 rebounds, 7 to 17 assists. That's Haliburton. He's not Magic Johnson. Again, don't get me wrong, but that's the kind of impact he has to have. And it was kind of it's frustrating, though, Skip, because if I'm a player of his caliber at this, that should be how you always want to slow guys down as a coach, Skip. You don't want to have to speed them up. The sped up guys don't make it into the league. If I got to speed you up, you're never going to be great. Haliburton, it's almost like some games needs to be sped up. It can't be tonight. He has got to come out in the first quarter and do a lot, whether it's good or bad. Even if it's bad, just be involved, have your hands on it.
Okay. So you've been doing this for a long time, and you've seen a lot of basketball in your day. At the NBA level, have you ever seen a team care about playing defense the way the Thunder care about playing defense?
No. And that's where I go to fit, right? I mean, Skip, they got a superstar. And I think you were in Chicago covering the Bulls when Jordan was around.
I was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've always said this about NBA players. If you want to be a great, great player, two things have to happen. One, you got to work on what you don't do well. Like Jordan developed a mid-range game. Magic could be a three-point shoot, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Second thing is, the great players are on the all-defensive team. The great players guard like crazy. The great players, I'm talking about the great, great players. When the game is on the line, I'm putting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but he's not there yet, but that team is. And again, I go to fit, Skip. They got dudes in there. Like, I love this Hartenstein. I loved him last year when he was with the Knicks. He doesn't care. What he wants to do is guard, be physical. He wants to get others the ball, and he's a fit Dort, a fit. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can go score 35, but he's going to get in a stance. Key to the game tonight, Skip, and you're talking about defense, the Oklahoma City Thunder are so much better at guarding their own man than the Pacers are, and that's a problem. When you can contain your own man, then you don't force help. You don't leave three-point shooters. All of a sudden, the offensive backboard, Pacers can't get to the offensive backboard because there's no rotation. The Pacers, even in the game they won for 47 minutes and 59.7, they couldn't keep the ball in front of them.
No.
And tonight, how many times in this series, if you've watched this series, you see a Pacer guy drive it down the lane, you think he's getting to the rim, he doesn't, then he jumps up in the air, spins back, and tries to throw it out. Well, there's nobody to throw it out to because the defense doesn't have to collapse. When you can guard your own guy in modern basketball, that is the key to playing. It used to be help side defense was the most important thing. No. You got to guard your own guy. OKC is great at that.
Okay, so what the Pacers have been greatest at in the playoff run is coming from hopelessly behind. I've never seen anything like this because now they've come back 4 times from at least 15. It was 3 times from at least 17.
Yeah.
How and why? How do they make this happen?
The short answer is they got guys not afraid of the moment. Like they got a real team. Like this is a team. Even my wife was a softball All-American and coach and all that, and doesn't really care about basketball that much. And she's like, Dan, I love this team. And when you're connected, that helps. That's big. But they got dudes that aren't afraid of the moment. You know, they got dudes that even if they miss, even during the course of the year, Haliburton or Siakam, they're not afraid. They don't care if they miss, you know, and that's part of it. The other part, honest to God, and I don't understand this in the NBA, in every one of those instances, the other team led up to a degree. Yeah. Like Neesmith goes and dunks one against Cleveland to start this big rally. Well, if I went back and watched the Knicks series, Knicks were still up 5 in the biggest comeback there was, and OG Anunoby tried to say something to Karl Anthony Towns, and he's bitching at OG Anunoby. And you're like, well, wait a second. You can't come apart, and the Pacers don't come apart late. No. And last thing, you know, their style of play lends itself to scoring spurts. Skip, they knocked in 6 threes in the last 9 minutes of game 1. Yeah. Now, I'm no math major. Let's just multiply that by 5. So in 45 minutes, that'd be 33. They're capable of that kind of run, but there are a lot of factors. And I would venture to say that ain't happening again, Skip. That's not happening again.
Yeah. By the way, Oklahoma City made 0 threes in the last 9 minutes.
That's right. That's right.
So your takeaway from games 1 and 2 is the Thunder are a little better than the Pacers, but the Pacers have some sort of will about them that make them extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I think you said that right, because if I said that the Pacers' advantage was will, that'd be unfair to the Thunder, right? I mean, the Thunder, you know, let's be honest, it's been the best team all year. And will is great, but you mentioned it earlier. There are very few teams in the annals of pro basketball that have played better defense over the course of a season than the Thunder have. There are very few teams that, you know, over the course of basketball that in an NBA season have only lost 2 games in a row twice the entire year, once in November and once back in April. So I don't want to say the Pacers have a better will. Pacers are a really good, really talented, tough basketball team. They are. And you know what? It's the NBA. You're not sweeping, you know, Pacers winning game 1, people disappointed game 2. Skip, you'll understand this. On my shows, I'm like, what would you think? They were going to sweep? Yeah. Like, why are you disappointed? You got a game. But my takeaway, Thunder are the better team right now. Pacers have to figure out a way to score consistently, and it can't be one-on-one. It's got to be the old Roy Williams, Dean Smith secondary break. Keep the ball moving. Don't let the ball stop, reset, get in a set, that kind of thing. And frankly, they can't let they can't let the 2 guys off the bench, you know, Wiggins. You know, they can't let those guys go for 40 or 38 or whatever they win for. You can't. That's nonsensical. That happens, you got no shot. But yeah, the Thunder are a better team to this point.
So you mentioned Haliburton as your superstar, but any given night, as Coach Dagnall said the other day, it's hard to figure who these he said there's not a player where you go in and say, well, we have to stop him. It's not how the Pacers play. They still don't have anybody who scored 20 in games 1 or 2. And Siakam on any given night, I mean, he's been here and done this before, so he's capable of being the best player, right?
Yeah, I love him. I watched him when they won the title. Yeah. You don't watch a team like you do when you're a media member in your market. He's damn good. I'm gonna throw some names. My all-time favorite basketball player is number 10 for the Chicago Bulls, Bob Love. And he was a forward, shot Bobby Dandridge and him and that's who he reminds me of. You know, he got a little fadeaway, shoots the ball up here, uses the backboard. Skip, and you know, he's great. Like, he is a great player to have on your team. Is he a superstar? No, I don't care. And he's got to be big tonight. Again, this Skip, more than any other league, probably, stars have to play in the postseason. You know, you can get a guy come off the bench, hit a home run. You know, Bernie Carbo back in the day, Chris Chambliss, famous home. You know, you can get a guy do that. But in basketball over a 7-game series, man, your stars, they got to shine because it's, I'm not relying as the number 3 hitter of the 2 guys in front of me getting a hit drive. You're going to have the ball in your hands. And Siakam, I would argue this: if Siakam and Haliburton don't combine for at least 40 points, Pacers aren't going to win. They got to get in the 50s between the 2 of them, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Go big picture quickly with me. Indiana basketball, state of Indiana basketball, starting with obviously the movie Hoosiers, is it in America. Did the movie overhype it a little bit? What is it still that way? Is that the feeling you got growing up in Indiana, that basketball was religion in ways it's not religion in the rest of the country?
I grew up in Northwest Indiana, Gary, Indiana, which is basically Chicago, right? We're on Chicago Times, Chicago TV, Chicago, all that. I didn't grow up with the small town feel. But I will tell you that once I started getting recruited, and Purdue recruited me, Indiana recruited me, other schools, I had a brother that was in college at the time in southern Indiana, and he's like, yo, you're going to Indiana. Well, why? He goes, well, because you don't understand how big it is. We live in Northwest Indiana, where we follow the Bulls, the Bears, the Blackhawks, the Cubs, Sox. And I quickly learned over my 16 years at Indiana. And to your point, when I was in high school, we played a game, a regional game, second round of the tournament, had 10,000 people in there. WGN brought a truck in there, and in Gary Westside High School. It's not necessarily that way anymore. They went to a 4-class system. People have moved on. I went to a high school game last year to see one of my former players' sons play, and it was against the number 1 team in the state, and there weren't very many people there. It's a little bit, now it's overblown, Skip.
Yeah,
Back
I got
when Hoosiers was being written, the guys that wrote it, Angelo and David, they nailed it. Skip,
they did.
They nailed it. And even in Northwest Indiana, like I said, we had 10,000 people at high school game, probably 4 different times, right? So, it's pretty big. But I'll say this, Skip. I've said this forever. Once I got to Indy, started a radio show, there is nothing in Indiana, including the state tournament, including the 500, like Pacers playoffs. And it's unbelievable. I don't know how it is in Chicago or LA or New York because they're bigger cities. But like my wife and I, we're going to go downtown today. Game's at 8:30. We're going to get downtown about 5:30. We're going to have dinner outside. The weather's beautiful. The city comes alive. It literally is the best thing. I hear people say, I don't like the NBA. Okay, great. Don't like the NBA. But like the NBA playoffs, man, particularly in our town, because it is nuts.
It is nuts. Okay, there's another basketball team in your town featuring a woman named Caitlin Clark. As a former coach, describe her game that you've seen so far as a professional basketball player.
The most unique, fan-friendly basketball game that a player in the WNBA has ever had. It's, I said from the get-go, it's Steph Curry. We've seen, and this is unfortunate, we had a great player here, Tamika Catchings, but we've seen her game. Asia Wilson's a terrific player, but we've seen her game.
Yeah, we have.
We've seen from the free throw line down, or we've seen from the 3-point line down. We haven't seen anything like Caitlin Clark. And it's not only like people talk about, her shooting from the logo. Yeah, I get it. Okay. But she has a Pete Maravich type flair. Like, I'm Serbian, so Pete Maravich is one of our all-time heroes, right?
Absolutely.
So she has a Pete Maravich type flair. And when you go to a game, I don't know if you've ever been to a game, man, we sat right on the court. She yelling at her teammates. She yelling at the coach. She's yelling at the refs. I mean, there's an edge to her that you like too, right? I mean, people like people with an edge. Like, people can say whatever they want about Michael Jordan, but people like the fact that Michael Jordan gambled. It was a bit, had an edge to him. And I just say this, she's the most unique player I've seen in women's basketball. And again, I have a stepdaughter that played college Division I sports. My wife, Division I coach and athlete. So I've been a big follower of women's sports. Yeah. And I've never seen anything with her game. I'm sure there'll be more, but I haven't I haven't seen anybody. That's what I think people miss it. They talk about white girl, they talk about white privilege, blah blah. Ah, that's crap. Her game resonates with people that love basketball because it's unique, right? I mean, that's the deal.
And yet, I may be preaching to your choir here, but I still can't understand why the veteran stars in this league, and I'm talking about black and white stars, will not embrace her drawing power, because it is supreme. She put this league on the national map. I don't care what you say, and yet they try to bully her, they try to intimidate her, they try to rough her up. I don't get it.
Skip, it's the dumbest, I don't know if I can swear, stuff that I've ever seen, man. I mean, I went, you do a local radio show in Indianapolis. We don't have baseball, so what do you talk about? Before Caitlin Clark got here, Skip, I went an entire summer, didn't even mention the word fever unless I had a fever. Like, unless I was sick. I swear to God.
That's a good line. Yeah.
Right? I mean, I literally didn't. In fact, my producer said, the fever ending their season? I go, I didn't even know they were playing. Well, I was talking to Michael Thompson. You remember Michael Thompson? I'm going to take the draft, Clay's dad.
Yeah.
He comes on my show, and I asked him, because he was on, the Lakers when Here Comes Bird and Magic. He was in the league. And he said, yeah, we were a little jealous, sure. But we understood that this is going to make us all money. This is going to grow the league. And these dumbasses in the WNBA are so sexist because she's a straight girl, racist because she's a white girl. That is complete bullshit. And I'm sorry, I get fired up, but I'll tell you something else. Fever are screwing it up. It's the third time that somebody, mostly Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky, have falsely accused Fever fans of racism. Every time it's total nonsense. But the Fever, even here, Skip, the Fever administration won't come out and defend the fans and stand up and say, wait a second, cut this crap out. We got great fans. Nobody's been racist. You all have accused. They won't. And people here, even in Indiana, are starting to get pissed off at the Fever management saying, hey, man, how long are you going to let this go before you defend us? And I think they have a point.
They're afraid of offending. Management's afraid of offending the black veteran stars.
Yeah, they're afraid of the woke, all the woke stuff. But I have three friends, all of whom have daughters, and they bought season tickets. Guy goes, hey man, I'm so tired of being called racist. I spend between 25 and 35 grand a year on Fever tickets because I got 4 tickets. We go, we eat, we do blah blah blah. He goes, I'm so goddamn tired of being called a racist because my daughter, he was sitting in the section it supposedly came from. He said that was crap. But again, it's not just the idiotic, sexist, racist players. It's the league not defending fans, and it's the Fever themselves. Have a golden goose here. Sold out crowds. Defend your damn fans that are paying money.
Well, Dan, all I got to say is Caitlin obviously has been injured for a while. I haven't watched a single Fever game while she's been out. And I love Aaliyah Boston, and I love Kelsey Mitchell. I love watching that team play. I love them all. But if Caitlin's gone, I'm not watching. If she should be back the next game, I'll be watching. I won't miss a game.
I'd be honest with you, I won't either. And
there you go.
But I also haven't. Now, again, you've done sports talk shows. You know that, you got to play the hits, all that kind of stuff. So obviously the Pacers are dominating it, and Anthony Richardson is as well. But having said that, she's still a big draw, and we haven't spoken about the Fever once since she's been out.
I got it. Coach, you're a good man. I appreciate you giving us this time, and we'll be watching, and we'll certainly be watching Game 3 tonight. Appreciate it.
Anytime, Skip. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. See you,
Thank
guys.
you, Coach Dakich. Thank you.